finally, our binge rewatch, we started in the evening. We decided to go with a French style theme, and so we had a sparkling wine champagne type drink with a beautiful French style charcuterie board. So you can see we've got lots of gorgeous things: fruits, dips, olives, tapenades, plant-based meats, chocolates, crusty breads, just about everything you think of. And it was an absolute delish spread.
Cheers.
Cheers. Here's to the ending season 2 and starting season 3.
Yeah.
And we're sitting out on Cathy's back veranda, and this is her backyard looking down to the coast. All beautiful flowering Australian native plants. Just a absolutely beautiful setting for sitting, talking about the Wheel of Time and getting ready for our last rewatch before season 3 starts. And after dinner, a good French gin to drink while watching. We are rolling.
Oh.
So we have just done season 2, episode 6 at a night time after having a good feed, and we've actually had French champagne.
We have.
A charcuterie board, so we're thinking of Kyrian with the French sort of influence in it, and now we're drinking French gin. Yeah. And I think I need to just angle it down a little bit. It looks too high.
Yes.
Episode 206, Eyes Without Pity.
Oh, is that what it's called? I didn't know.
That's what it's called.
That. Yeah, well, yes.
And I said a couple of times during the episode, this is probably the hardest episode of both seasons. It certainly is for me.
Yeah.
So we've been taking notes, and as usual, I've taken more copious notes.
So many notes.
Yeah, but that's all right. It always gets good conversation going. So before you start with your notes, overall of that whole stuff that we saw, what really strikes you? Like, what would you say? That's what this episode really embodies.
Oh, okay, well, that's a good question. Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm not sure I know what the answer is. I'm not sure I can name a single thing. It's like they're all being drawn inexorably to their fate, and it doesn't matter what anyone says or does. It's kind of it's destined to happen, and you know, if Matt goes or if Matt doesn't go, it doesn't in the end matter. But in the moment, it feels like it matters a lot. I don't know.
Because we kind of said that, didn't we? When we're going, oh, Matt, when Matt's hiding there and doesn't go out to Ran. And then Rand comes around the corner and lands there. And it's like, it might not have been terrific if Matt had been with him anyway. So I think that's a good sort of embodiment of it, is like, whatever you think is in your control, they were all just being swept along paths, almost regardless of choices.
Yes.
And any control that they thought they had. So no, I think that kind of sums up really well what was happening. So what have you got in your notes?
Okay, I'm going to go from... I don't have very much because I was just really enjoying... Well, I don't even know if enjoying's the right word, but I was immersed in the episode.
I know.
And I was amazed at how much I remembered of this episode. Like, I remembered a lot of detail. There were a few things I didn't remember, but I remembered a lot. At the very start, I was trying to work out whether Renner is just running off a script or if she truly does believe that she can be some kind of twisted friend. The longer the episode went on, the more I decided it was just a script that she was running off.
Right.
Because,
Yeah.
there were no friendly intentions. But I don't know. I was just trying to work out what's her motivation to even pretend to be friendly. When, again, at the end of the day, she is going to get control. Egwene is going to have to submit at some point in some way, because it's torture. So, it was very, or is it just some sort of twisted game?
No, that's actually really good, because the whole Damane thing, if you take the magic side out of it, of course, is very much based on the African American slave situation in America's past, and even if you brought that here to Australia, when white man was invading here, there are always some who are overtly don't care about the slave caste that they're working with and will treat them really badly. But then there are others who will actually somehow believe they are helping them and giving them a good life and are befriending them. So, I mean, I kind of get the feeling from Renna that in her own twisted way, she does think that she is offering this person some... Egwene is not a person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but she, somehow believes like that she's one of the good ones because, and it is so horrifically twisted.
Yeah. I was thinking the actress who plays Egwene, playing that part with the history of her people must have been really hard and really painful it just must have been.
And yet such a powerful opportunity as a coloured actress to be able to show that situation, because Maddie's father, he lived most of his life in Redfern, and he was an actor, but he was also quite an activist for the Indigenous people in Australia. So there's kind of this whole really beautiful circular wheel kind of thing about her being able to play that part. And then for you and I, it's extra exciting because she's a Bundjalung woman. So we get to also watch it with that understanding of what happened in this area. But it must have, if I were ever to be granted an opportunity to interview Madeline, that I would be wanting to ask her about those Australian roots and how it must have felt to be able to represent the horror
the story
of slavery and all of the layers that were able to be shown in there.
And particularly because a lot of that history here has been very hidden and untold.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. So.
Yeah. As it has been in every culture, and it's just been because we're one of the newer ones. It's only been coming to light really over the last 10 to 20 years. I remember in the 80s, I was living in Brisbane and I saw Joe Bjelke-Peterson being interviewed on television, and I was only kind of half watching it, whatever I was doing, I know it was on, and I was half watching it, and he said something and even I missed it, and the journalist said, "Wait a minute, are you saying Aboriginals are not human beings? And Joe Peterson looked directly into the camera and said, that's right, I'm saying Aboriginals are not human beings. And there I am living in Brisbane, right? And it hit me like a ton of bricks that I had never until that point really understood. So I was only in my 20s, had a couple of young children, and I hadn't really understood what was going on, and that was a turning point for me to hear the Premier of my state say that on television so blatantly. So you know, there's been a lot of hidden
and it's the stories of the massacres here in this area have only really since the 90s started to be told.
And the stealing of the children.
And the stolen generation and all of that.
That and that's where I have talked on my YouTube channel before about the movie Rabbit Proof Fence. And I only just recently watched that again before doing a podcast where we were talking about generational trauma and the IEL, which will make more sense to you a bit later on. And so before we did that, I watched Rabbit Proof Fence again, because I went in the 60s, no, sorry, in the 70s, late 70s, I went to a mission station in Western Australia at Carnarvon, and I was only a child, and we went there for several days, and we stayed there, and because my father was a church minister, and it was all like, look at what the church is doing, and I didn't even have enough. I mean, I was not raised to be able to question things, because I was raised in the church, and I was too young to have enough language to know how to question things. But I remember my sister and I had to sleep in the dormitory with the Aboriginal girls, and it was exactly like it looks in that movie. And we were petrified, and they were laughing at us because they just had never seen anything like these two little white girls. And you know, we'd never seen anything like them, and me just knowing that this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, but I couldn't even talk about it to anybody. And when I rewatched the movie, I remember the main actress from the movie, and she's laying in the bed in the dormitory, and she's going, this is sick, this is sick, this is sick. And I'm like, you know, that was my fear, but I didn't have words for it. So it's for me, seeing our Bundjalung woman playing that part with such a striking scene, it just adds layers that weren't even in the book for me, because there's something about Madeline being there that it makes it's like it's part of us as well. It's amazing.
Now, the other thing that I had down really was about the picture of water. And I don't think that I noticed this the first time we watched it, but I kept going back to the first scene in the first episode of this season with the water, with Nynaeve and Egwene in the tower with the mud.
Oh, yes.
And they're all around this water, and then this focus about doing something with the water. And so I just kept connecting those two things, and
beautiful.
Kind of two. We all know I'm not a big fan of the White Tower, and I don't love the way that they abuse their power and control people. So it was two different kinds of control, one more overt and violent and physical, but two different ways of control centered around this water that was always in the middle of the room. So I just kept coming back to that. So it was just something that really, really stood out for me this time.
And they're really good at that in the show, at using metaphors and kind of like bookending them. you know, here in this situation, that situation, and I hadn't thought about that water and pouring of the water and Nynaeve's gorgeous, just okay, got to drink it, you know, yeah,
and each of them in those situations were just kind of poor Egwene tried her hardest to rebel against it in the prison cell, but anyway.
And that was like just so striking was that how can you rebel against that when you're a prisoner?
And you're there for life. This is it. This is your life now. So
and there were so many similarities to horse breaking,
right?
Where you see Renna is like speaks quietly, gets close to her, touches her, gets her, you know, even though she doesn't like it, gets her used to being touched, you know, all of those things that are just so shudder inside. This is, you know, horrific, because I think it's horrific to do this to animals, but when you see it being done to a human, that's when you start to realise, how horrific it is.
Okay, so over to your long list.
Now, I've only got like 2 pages. That's all right. So, is Rand Luce Theron Telamon?
Oh.
So that goes back to early in the episode,
and because of the context where that was all happening, I was then in my head I'm going, it's a bit like, did Jesus know he was God, you know, and so it's because she said, I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was something like, you knew this was going to happen, and it's like, well, Rand didn't know that was going to happen, and he doesn't appear to be tapping into any kind of, I don't know, ancestor memories or something of Blue's.
I don't
think he's making that connection for himself yet at all.
No, but she called him Luce Theron, and that's why I simply wrote the question. So,
but does it become
Rand Luce Theron Telamon?
Does it become a self-fulfilling prophecy if she tells him often enough?
Very good question.
Will he think he is? Will he make it happen?
Very good question. I made a couple of notes about Leandrin because we had the scene with Lanfear and Leandrin. And Leandrin makes the point of, Lanfear makes the point of saying that Leandrin is specifically working for Ishamael.
Yes.
Which she thinks is, you know, quite ironic considering Leandrin is a red and Ishamael is a male. So, I guess Dark Friends, are they working for the Dark One, or are they working for specific Forsaken?
Well, because Lanfear said you made the oaths to the Dark One, or to the Dark.
To the Dark.
To the Dark.
Correct.
So,
but she says you're working for Ishamael. Because Ishamael is who was keeping her son alive.
But it sounded like the way I understood that conversation, by the end of the conversation, was that Leandrin had assumed that she was, but she had a choice to be working for the Dark. Rather than specifically for Ishamael.
And what do you think Ishamael might think of that? Well, is Ishamael... I mean, at this point, Ishamael is definitely there. He's a player.
Yeah, yes.
So if that's the case, what do you think Ishamael would think of that? if Leandrin said, well, I don't actually work for you.
Well, he's not going to be very happy because he's, having read Koala Sedai, having her on his puppet strings is pretty good. He's not going to love it.
Not going to love it?
He's
No.
not going to love it, no.
So what kind of position does that put Leandrin in?
Well, it puts her in a real quandary because Lanfear has really played on her like, why are you reporting to a bloke? You hate men. That's the whole point of the Red Archer, you know. So now she's going to be questioning all of her choices, presumably.
And then she kills the son. So
Yes.
okay, so now you don't have it. So what position?
So now you're free to just report to the dark.
Free. Now you're free.
Yeah.
And a Charmael will agree with that, you think?
No, I do not. No.
Because that's kind of what I'm thinking is like, how is a Charmael going to...
Yeah.
And then Leandrin doesn't really strenuously say, don't kill my son.
No, not at all. And I really noticed that this time. That
Good, because I think it becomes more noticeable with re-WoTches.
Yes. And I mean, it is, I think also at that point, I mean, it's so messed up. It's so messed up. I mean, the whole thing is so messed up. You know, this Forsaken is doing you a favour by killing your son, which then frees you up from your obligations to a male Forsaken. I mean, it is just a horrible, horrible mess. I thought it was interesting. This is one bit I hadn't remembered, was when Lanfear said something like, I'm doing for you what only a woman can do. And it was it was kind of like midwifery, but at the other end of life. But it
was like, I'm the palliative care nurse.
it's like, oh my God, just, do you really want Lanfear for your palliative care? Probably not. Actually, that's something else I really did notice. It was later in the episode. Was when Lanfear was in Rand's dream and she was giving him the option to talk to whoever he wanted, and you could see her heartbreak when she could see he was going to choose to be with
It's
Egwene.
like, whoever you want, but not the fucking girl.
But it was very, very subtle.
Yeah.
But it was there, and I'm correct. I think because we've been talking about that before we started watching it, I really noticed it.
And these are the things that make it feel like a book reader going back and reading the books again. That without further knowledge, that nuance isn't really picked up.
Yeah.
But when you know a bit more about her, and then you go, oh, look at that little, and so that's really good that you saw that. My next note it's just a comment. Egwene's torture goes on for many, many, many days. You know, that's not, like when you think about it, that's not like just a day and a night and the next day or something like that. You know, she's actually getting close to dying. You could see it in, you know, that last one where she can barely stand because she's not even being able to drink. You know, so it's pretty extreme. My next note doesn't make sense anymore. I'll leave that one.
Okay.
I wish it did make sense. It just says Ishi. So what is really cute is that there's a point later where Lanfear says Ishi dear when she comes into Rand's dream and Isharmael's there and she goes Ishi dear.
Yes.
Is that never in the books is Isharmael called Ishi.
Oh, okay.
That is a name the fans have shortened in text to saying Ishi, right? So because it's easier. And when she went Ishi dear, we lost our shit because it was like, yep, You know us. Yeah.
Oh,
So I've just, I've made a note here. And Ishi, do this last thing. I remember saying it enough times. He said to Min. So when Ishmael was talking to Min, and he says, do this last thing and I'll free you. And that's why I was making that, like the father of lies, like, you know. So she's obviously been told, do this, get Matt, you know, out of the cell, get Matt to this city, and now he goes, do this last thing. How many more things do you think?
And it was very clear from the way they did that this was not ever going to be the last thing. There'd always be one more.
Just one more.
Yeah.
Just one more. Yeah. So that's good. When I read it, I couldn't remember, and then finally it did come to me. Now I'm at the Forsaken Temple.
Yep.
And when that was playing, I was very excited to say I've been at that location, and that it is an awesome location. That rock face of granite of basalt, it's huge. Like you can climb right up onto the top of it. It's absolutely huge. It's just amazing. But the note that I made is, so now 3 more people know that Rand is the Dragon Reborn. Alana, Maxim and Ivan.
Yes.
And of course the only way to keep a secret is to not tell anyone. So now, Moraine knows, Lan knows. Swan knows.
Yeah.
Who else? Alana, Maxim, Ivan, Varen knows.
Yep.
Right? So it's like the more people who know, the more out of hand the situation can get. Okay, in that dream that we were just talking about, where Rand is killing everybody, and then Ishamael's there, and then Lanfear turns up and goes, and he disappears. She goes, I told you I was protecting you. My question is, and we don't know this for certain, so this just, what do you think? Was Ishamael really there in that dream, or did Lanfear create? You think Lanfear created?
Yeah.
I think that's very possible, especially because that's when she says, Ishi dear.
Yes.
It kind of makes us think it's even more possible that she was just, see, Rand, I told you that's what I was doing. Yeah, interesting. Now we're in Falm with Rima, and Rima said that she is sending a ship's captain with the message because she didn't want to put it in the letter. Yeah. Who could that ship's captain be?
Well, I assumed it was the bloke that had the poem.
Yeah, the doobie captain.
Yes.
Bail Doman.
I can't. Anyway, the guy with the really dodgy accent.
Yeah,
we're very good between Wales and Cornwall somewhere.
But that's good that you actually had connected that. Yeah. Okay. Now I've got a question for you. Why didn't Moraine come home when her father was dying? Because that obviously was really eating at her sister.
Yeah.
There. So why might Moraine deliberately not come home?
I don't know, but I can't even think why I thought this, but when she first came back home in this season, I had the sense that she'd stayed away to protect her family and to protect the town, and so her presence was not going to be a good thing if she rocked up for Dad's deathbed scene.
Totally agree. That's great. I really like that you're picking that up. So it's like, if you have enemies, and those enemies know who's important to you,
Yeah.
they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, that kind of sacrifice would just be horrific, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, just horrific.
Yeah. So part of her tragedy is that her sister doesn't understand how desperate she is to have come home this time.
At this point.
At this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the worst part about having to take that stand is it's only going to work if you don't fill those people in on why you're taking that stand, because otherwise they won't react believably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know that you can answer this, but I just liked how Rima had those rings that she showed to Nynaeve, and 2 of the sisters had been killed, and one sister who had a blue ring was taken.
Yeah.
And then
And that
we see that was Megan,
Yeah.
who was the blue sitter,
Yeah.
who was the one who tried to make Moraine stay at the tower so that she could go out west to investigate the ships that had been sighted and all of the everything. And even though Moraine wriggled out of that, Megan, words are hard, obviously worked out whatever she needed to, that she was still able to go.
Yeah.
And was captured and has become a Damane. Yeah, horrible. It's so traumatic, that scene with the tree.
Yes.
Yes,
it is awful.
My little environmental heart just absolutely dies at the way she stepped Egwene through that, you know, with her being so empathetic and so in touch with the nature to then kill it.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really what I've made a note about, because what I made the note about really was then when that was done and Rena was like turning to Egwene and she's going, that's what it should feel like that. And it's like she was freebasing a drug, you know?
Well, yeah.
You know,
it
was just like, it was like, you've just had the biggest hit you've ever had in your life. Yeah. Because Robert Jordan did draw parallels to using the one power in connection to addictive drugs.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that because there is that whole danger of like if you use too much, you can kill yourself. You know, you can become quite addicted to it and all the rest of it. But yeah, I really noticed at that time that it was like, whew, she's just, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, talking about that, she said, do you feel it? Do you feel that affinity? And do you remember Egwene's face? She just goes,
Yes. Yeah.
So, in your opinion, what does that all mean? What is this affinity? Like, what is this all about?
I think it's a construct. I think that Rena, because the demand, so Egwene is not, she doesn't belong to Rena. Yeah, Rena's like her keeper on behalf of the Empire.
Correct.
So I think
she belongs to Turak because she belonged to Suroth, who gave her to Turak. Yeah.
So if we're taking the slavery model, then she's not Rena's slave. Rena is just breaking her on behalf of somebody else. So I think the way that Rena and now what's her role called? I can't remember.
Suldam.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Suldams I think, and this has got no basis in anything I've
Love it.
seen at all, but I think that they've sold some kind of propaganda that says this is what you get out of it. Is, you know, it's like someone dragging on a joint and blowing a bit in your mouth. So she gets right, so it's that you get a little bit.
We've all been there, yeah.
So yeah, you're going to get a little bit of a high, a little bit of a buzz from this, and that's
Right.
what's in it for you. Because otherwise, she's just a jail keeper who's hurting someone.
Right.
So that's my personal theory, with no basis whatsoever.
I am never going to be able to see that collar without thinking of somebody
Yeah.
toting on a joint and blowing it
My
into
gift
someone's
to
face.
you.
Thank you. That's funny. My next note was just Nynaeve's statement when they were trying to work out the Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and just her statement. She said two things there. It wants to be healed, and it wants to be complete, which I thought was kind of interesting. I have to go back and read the book because I don't remember in the book them saying it wanted to be healed. I only remember the bit about complete. So, I don't know. Like, does that mean anything to you as to what she was trying to work out?
I don't think so, but I had a vague memory that when we watched it last time, maybe in the next episode, but in a subsequent episode, it made more sense, but I might be just imagining that in my head. I don't know.
Oh, we'll try and remember that for the.
We only have to
for the
remember
next
till
time
tomorrow.
around. Tomorrow. So we're doing a binge. We are sitting here on the evening before Cathy's day off, and we've actually looked at lots of the images that we got for season 3. Had an amazing meal, had actual French champagne with French food. Now we're having French gin and still bits of food, and tomorrow we're going to get to finish so that by the end of tomorrow, by the time I go home, we will have finished season 2 and watched the teaser trailer and the trailer, and if Cathy wants to, even the cold open. So we might know more about the Adam.
I just feel as
by that
though
point.
I thought to myself, I'm not going to get hung up on this because I feel as though we learn more later on, but I may have misremembered that. You can hold me accountable tomorrow.
Oh, even if I remember, even I forget little details of like what happens exactly when. The next little thing that I just made note of, because it came to me in that particular scene when all of that happened, Nynaeve does the big whoopsie and they've been caught out, and Rymer hands the reins basically over to Nynaeve, who is so young. And it really made me think about the real world Robert Jordan, or James Rigney, which is his real name, and who was in the Vietnam War, and about how there were so many very, very young conscripted men in the war, but even young men who signed up to the war who weren't of age, who lied and managed to wriggle through before they were even old enough, who were basically being called upon in extraordinary circumstances to be heroes. And we often see that in this story. It can be like, why would you be sending those young kids to do things? But that's exactly how it has been in war, is that some extraordinarily young people are given tasks that normally would not be given to, anybody but really experienced people. And that really struck me when Rymer kind of did no, I'm going to go down, I'm going to take this. can I trust you to do this? And just hands the reins over to these kids. And it was just huge.
Yeah. I thought, because it could have been another one of those events that send Nynaeve down a spiral, you know. There's another person I didn't save. You know, it's all my fault. It could have sent her into a really huge guilt spiral, and it was a real kind of a real offering of trust and, I'm going to authorise you to do this. I trust you'll get this done, even though you just caused the situation. But there was no sort of harping on about that. It was like, we move on from that.
We got no time for that now, right?
But it was just, it was a very affirming thing to do. Terrifying. I mean, it's a terrifying responsibility.
Horrific. Absolutely horrific.
But it is affirming in that she didn't go to Nynaeve, right, you stand over there. I've got something I need to give Elaine to do now because you've just cocked up. So, it was
that's right, because that could have happened, couldn't it? Like, she could have basically...
I mean, if it had been me, I probably would have gone, right, okay, look, just sit down, dear.
Elaine seems a bit more level-headed, a bit more... that's really true.
She was channeling nicely, so I've just got something I've got to give her, just go over there.
Even though Elaine... because Elaine was able to say, this is a Terangriel, like...
Yes.
Elaine, so... Yeah,
so she wasn't being clueless and just blindly obedient in all of this. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
My last note. Basan should have killed Rima. Her warder, Basan. He should have killed her.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That moment of hesitation.
Yes, and it was just a moment.
It was just a moment of hesitation. Understandable. Mm-hmm. But he should have killed her. Yeah. So, will we see her again?
I think we do, don't we? I can't remember.
Oh, we don't this season?
Oh, okay.
Will we see her again?
Oh, okay. Okay, isn't that interesting? In my memory, I thought we saw her in prison.
Because we only see trained Damane after that.
Right. So... Well, I'm going to say yes. If we've gone to all the effort,
I don't know. This is just
if we've gone to all the effort of building up this character and creating, a bit of a story, I hope we do, because
I reckon it would be good if we do.
Her.
Oh, she's amazing.
Should be good for Nynaeve. Maybe that's why Nynaeve becomes a yellow.
Oh my God. I thought you were going to say she'd be a really effective Damane. Can you imagine her leashed and killing people, right? I mean,
well,
no, she would be good for Nynaeve.
She would be. But anyway, I hope we do see her again, because it would be very sad that she's made that huge self-sacrifice, and I mean her scream as she, as the Adar went round.
Because and before that, when Basan was killed, so we know what that's like, and so that double trauma of she's just feeling him being killed, and then the Adam slammed on her neck is absolutely. Oh, that is a really, really. Really traumatic episode.
Yes. I just remembered another very random question, and I don't expect you to be able to answer it now. But in anyone who's done any of the linguistic studies of the names that he's given to places and people, do Dam and Lan have particular meanings? Because they appear also. So you've got Damodred, but then you've got Damane and Suldam with it in a completely different context. So does Dam have a meaning, and does Lan have a meaning?
So Damane. So this is a good question, because I don't know about Lan in connection to it, but Damane, the literal translation is leashed one.
Okay.
So the Adam is the leash.
Right.
Suldam is the holder of the leash. And there's another name that they haven't used in the show, which doesn't really matter, but that's Marith Damane, which is one who needs to be leashed.
Okay.
So any channeler who hasn't been collared yet is a Marith Damane. They are one who needs to be leashed.
But what about Damodred then? I mean, that's Dam.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's really good. Damodred. I like that. I am going to. I need to be able to take this piece of paper home. Just while we're doing this, I'm going to put this in the notes on my phone because then I've actually got it with me. I'm going to go Damodred on tongue roots, because we have a wonderful person in our fandom who is our expert in the old tongue.
Okay, righto.
And that is a really good question. And I'm going to go to Pavara, and I'm going to Koala Sedai, and I'm going to ask her if there's any links between Damodred, because Lan is Lan Mandragoran.
But then you've got Lanfear, and there's a Lan.
And then you've got Lanfear.
Someone else has Lan in their name, and I can't think who. I'm sure there's another Lan somewhere in another context.
I don't remember another Lan.
Maybe not.
I do know that I am I'm disappointed that they've changed Galad's full name in the show, only because his full name is the most fun name to say, because his full name is Damodred and Damane.
Okay.
Say that 3 times fast and you are a winner. Yeah, and they have called him Galad Trikand, because Elaine is Elaine Trikand.
Right.
And they have called him Galad Trikand because he is only her half-brother, she would very adamantly state in the books.
Right.
But yeah, Galad and Damodred is just like the most fun name ever. So yeah, okay. I will find that out.
I've just remembered something else that came to me. So before we watched the show, we were talking about how Robert Jordan had got some of his names from Arthurian legend, and
yes, we were talking about some of that.
And you were talking about Rand al'Thor, so Thor, but it suddenly struck me, Rand al'Thor, Arthur, if you say it a bit quick.
Oh, Rand
Which
Arthur,
made me wonder whether, because I'm there going, does that mean that Egwene and Rand do get together in the end then, and does it go horribly wrong, because that didn't go well in the Arthurian legend. Anyway, that was a little rabbit hole I went down.
I like it. I have never thought of taking al'Thor to Arthur. I really like that. One of the ones that I twigged at one point before Origins came out, which made me feel so proud because I got it, was that the Armelin seat is Merlin.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Right?
Yes.
How good is that?
Yep.
Yeah. So there is lots in there, but because it's never meant to be exact, it makes it even more fun because it's like threads that weave a pattern through all of it. Yeah. Editing Koala here afterwards, because I did take the questions to Koala Sedai and the Shards of Kalandor Discord, and it was fabulous. So here's what I said there. My non-reader friend was wondering if there's any old tongue connection with Dam, the use of that by Shan-Chan, and Damodred. Does Damodred have a meaning? And Pavara said, I've never thought about it before, but that's such a cool question. The short answer is no. The long answer? Well, nothing officially stated, but looking at the parts of the name, it could be translated, this is Damodred, as twisted leash. Dam meaning leash, plus O, which means and dread, twist. And that's actually really fitting. So then I went on to the land question. Is there any old tongue root with Lan? Because she got hooked on why we have a hero named Lan and a villain named Lanfear. Is there any connection? Pavara said Lanfear is La, daughter, plus Anne of the, plus Fear, knight, daughter of the knight. So her name isn't related to Lan. But Lan is an old tongue word that means prized or beloved. And then we went down this whole rabbit hole of then if Lanfear is La An Fear, why isn't it Lanfear with an apostrophe? And the short answer is, well, sometimes just because it was probably more aesthetic, Robert Jordan took out the double vowel and the apostrophe and just left it all joined together. But that was a lot of fun, and I was able to get those answers while still at Cathy's place, and over breakfast the next morning we got to discuss it. Well, there we go. Season 2, episode 6. We've only got 2 more episodes to go to be caught up and ready for season 3. Yes!
Yay! We'll see you at breakfast.
I don't think we're going to do another one tonight.
No, I don't have the emotional strength to do another one.
No, and it's very late on my
late
weird little timeline. Yes,
yeah, me too. Yeah.
We get to do a breakfast episode. Oh, that sounds fabulous.
Cool.